wanted to say any of the details.
So going to Zoom, YouTube. See if there's participants. We have
Oh, there
two,
we
I'll
go.
bring them into the meeting. Multi-panels. Did they come in? Yep. Can't tell.
Tony, I'm assuming you become a Zoom expert at this point.
No, I'm not. I had to have a real quick crash course. I haven't done one of these in a while. Okay, so I think we have a quorum.
You guys can see me?
We can-
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there I am on the screen in the background. Got it.
use-
Please turn off your cell phone.
There we go. There. Just in time.
Okay.
All right, I think we're ready to go. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, you aware of who's here? Do we want to just say who's here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, Mike Slavin is here.
Darren Granat is here. Gino Neal's here.
Gates.
Then we have Alfred Falzone and Vinnie Plow online.
Thank you.
In spirit.
All right, our first order of business here is approval of the minutes. Last week, back in December 14th. Have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Moving things along here. All right, all those in favor?
Choose your name.
A well-oiled machine is. Good. All right, old business, new business. I think it's kind of a combination. We'll just jump right into it. Review a fee on the oyster floats. Is there anything
Well, you wanted me to do some research with regards to where the fees were going to be used because of the increase on
Okay.
the, I did speak with Ruth as far as, I don't believe there's any more electricity that's being used down there.
Mhm.
But when the two new applicants spoke with the town manager, and I believe Jean may have further information on this, they were the ones that recommended the $1,000. And it was to help with the purchase of, was it pylons or something like that, Jean?
I know you just defeat it to use the tool.
Yeah, and I think it would help to, they want to put in 2 posts that have,
Yeah, what I've asked them to do is to put on a plastic protective unit
around the pylons? Yeah.
around the pylons, so
Yeah.
you wear up and down the time.
so
It's a very minor expense, so people say this.
those fees would assist with
Mhm.
the other.
Your maintenance.
So I didn't know if the committee would want to, I know at the last meeting, they had asked for a 1-year lease. It
Mhm.
has not gone before the council, and I was just interested to know if the committee would just go ahead and recommend with the 5-year that the town manager had brought forth.
Yeah, didn't we, I thought last meeting, did we recommend that they do the 1-year lease? I thought we did.
Yes, but what I'm saying is now that we know that there's no way to track the electrical fees because they're not using any, I didn't know if the committee would want to just move forward with the town manager's recommendation of the 5-year and go with the
With a
1,000.
5-year instead of a 1-year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we have some discussion on that?
Seems like a big difference.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
Is that something standard that the town does with lease arrangements, or
Yes,
they do 5 years?
yes, I believe the last lease that they had with, who's the gentleman that, the other gentleman that has the,
You took the oyster farm?
yes,
You know, Sunset River?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, theirs was 5 years as well.
Abigail Carroll.
Abigail
No,
Carroll.
she's no longer
She
there.
sold, she sold
it.
hers, yeah.
Yeah. But that had
Oh,
been
but
a
it was sold.
5-year.
I see.
Yeah.
Is his lease 5 years about the float?
Well, I
Or
think
a 5-year lease about having his gear in the water?
it's,
The gear in the water has nothing, that's a DMR issue.
right. The float is what he's paying for, and I believe his is currently just a 1-year because of the fact that there was they were looking at others coming in. So if this were to be approved for, if the committee agrees that it's 5 years, then his is up about the same time and his would go to a 5-year as well, is my understanding. And it would also go up.
So the only thing I'd say is that.
But it was, so if,
Yeah, Vinny, go ahead.
yeah, what if it was a 5-year, but then there was the, you know, there's gonna be either a clause in there to look at, you know, a cost of living, inflationary, gee, we just spent $25,000 on the pier. I don't know. You know, something that you can come up with, I
I
mean,
believe
it's,
there is a clause in there, Vinny. I don't have the lease right in front of me, but I believe there is a clause in the lease itself.
I mean, hurricane so-and-so comes by and takes out 3 of the posts or something. I don't know. The floats can do as much damage as good, you know, if it's too much water or too much anything.
Well, the only thing I'd say is there's, is some administrative burden with this, so if you only are willing to allow a 1-year lease, then it's just gonna come before the committee every year.
Yeah.
We'll go through the same process of the agenda item, and then, it'll go to the council, so, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it is a factor. So that's something for you to consider.
Yes.
Hi, brand new person. What are the advantages and disadvantages to a 1-year versus a 5-year lease?
That's a good question. I think a 1-year would give us the flexibility to revisit the fee arrangement if things change. 5 years just seems like a long time. But maybe we should think, and 1 year is maybe too short, maybe we should go with 3 years. And then we have a little bit more flexibility. Concern is, something could happen in the pier in a couple of years, and we all of a sudden we're tied in, we might be raising other fees to cover costs. That kind of thing. That's kind of what I think. 3-year.
Yeah, I like that idea because I see every 1 year could, be potentially, or wouldn't be so efficient with the council aspect of it. But I like having it a little shorter than 5 years, especially where the new owners have done such oyster, so they may be doing something different. And the other group is new as well, so.
Is there competition for this?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There's two companies that do it now, and I just think that 5 years is a long time to be stuck into a one-time yearly fee when the overhead of that business is very minuscule. And I think that $1,000 is a great start, but I'd be charging $2,500 pops every year. That's where I'm at, because I know what financially they're making, and it's kind of like the lobster license and the commercial fishermen, the shellfish guys. I mean, you guys are paying. State requires them to pay this minuscule fee for a license, and that hasn't changed with time. It's not going to change with time if we lock it in for 5 years.
Sure. Are the owners of both of them, are they residents?
2 are,
2 are?
the most current one.
So
The other,
the 2 we have are residents.
the 2 that, no, there's 2 people that own the one that we're discussing.
Just
They're
okay.
both residents.
They're residents. Okay.
The other one is a resident out of I'm not sure. He may have moved.
Because I know we're gonna get to fees when we talk about the ordinance. And I don't know, I'm kind of a fan of residents having a little bit of a break versus non-residents, just in general.
Mhm.
Because, you know, in general, what we do is really a taxpayer funded type of thing. And something big comes up, the non-residents are gonna be getting a great deal. And nobody else has to pay for something. So, any more discussion, or maybe I'll present a motion that we suggest a 3-year lease? So we have more discussion. What do you guys think? Any, Alfred, any thoughts on the Zoom call?
The only, I guess, the hard thing is that you're making a call about this gentleman's lease and how much money it is, and you haven't made a call yet on what you're gonna do with the mooring fees, the use of the pier, how much it is to back down and pump water for your outside tank, whoever's using all these piers and fees. And although I'm fine with giving them 5 years, I don't have a problem with the time. I just think that as a group, we should make sure that, you know, is that the right amount of money, or, you know, is somebody else got to pay more? Or, you know, how do you, if you've charged a lobsterman $400 and he's backing down on the pier, that's one thing, or whatever the number is, it has to fit the same scale all the way through, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Vinny, are you under the impression that they would have to pay a lease fee for the pier use and then a commercial fishing, like, pier use fee as well?
Well, that, you know, something like that should happen.
That's where I'm at. I mean, the
Because-
$1,000, as far as I'm concerned, $1,000 gives you the ability to strap something to the pier.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So you're still gonna pay the $400 fee to drive your truck on it and everything else. That's where I'm at.
Yes, I agree with you, Jim, because, you know, everybody that's using that pier, it doesn't matter who it is, there should be a fee that sets everything in line so they're all using it equally, whether you're XYZ and pumping water, or whether you're backing down there and unloading a tuna boat, or you're taking your charters out fishing. You're using the pier.
Right?
Tony, who are the people involved here? Who are the principals that are going to be using?
It's
the phone?
Matt Hassler and Sam Nygren.
Okay.
They're the applicants.
And the original lease lessee, who is that? Is that Glidden?
That's the nun,
That's Abigail.
That's the
Carroll.
second-
that's the Abigail.
That's the other-
Right, since then, there's been,
Yeah, I'm not, I can't remember who the owner is of the
kind of
current.
like Brian McPherson, the guy.
Yes,
who Glidden
yes.
Point Oysters.
Yes.
Yes, he's the other one who's currently there.
Okay.
And if I remember, I believe maybe a year ago, there was discussion how they were going to get together, they being McPherson and Matt, and talk and discuss about these fees.
Yeah,
So
they
whether,
collaborated
that I don't
on work too.
pardon me?
They've collaborated some with work, you know, because of the, you know, the problems of either enough people, or you're already down there, Sam, can you help me out with this while you're here? Or, you know, it's a good working relationship, you know, from everything that I see. It's a great thing. Just has to be sustainable for the pier down the future.
Yeah, I think I just glanced through the lease again. It looks like the lease is strictly, it's for the putting the float
Mhm.
attached to the pier. And
Just
the
like
commercial
Darren had
use
said,
thing, we're
yeah.
gonna be talking about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
About what we think about changing those fees in general. So,
So if it's just the float and it's just the, you know, the ability to put it there, well, the 5 years for the float and the 5 years for the, just the float is one thing, as long as there's going to be a pier use or something else
Mhm.
attached to it. I think that's where you're going, right, Darren?
That's what I would, the $1,000 just gives you the ability to tie something to the
Yeah.
pier and utilize the pilings and put a dock on it, and then everything above that, you still have to have a pier use permit.
Mhm.
well, that said, I'm gonna put a motion then that we recommend a 3-year lease, which gives us a chance to revisit the lease cost itself in a couple of years. Doesn't tie us into 5 years. that motion. Second?
I second it.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous.
All right. Next topic on the agenda is pier maintenance. Always a good topic. Any news on what's going on with the pier? It's still standing, I know that.
It's still standing. I'm waiting to see which company we have, an agreement with, to come down and do a structural examination of the pier. And then we'll go from there as to what needs to be fixed immediately, what needs to, we can put on. And where the funding is. So I hope to have that information for you folks at the next meeting. I'm hoping to have it now. That's something we really need to do.
Yeah.
It's going to be done. Again, as I said a couple of times, I've got to spend a little money now and a lot of money down the road. We really haven't done a lot, anything really to the pier. And that small walk pier that the public uses is really, nice. The engine four is supposed to come down and wash down.
Yeah. Right. I know, I was thinking about that too. I don't know that we can. I don't know that we're gonna be able to do that because we only carry 300 gallons of water on that forestry truck, but we can. The issue we're gonna do is we can probably do it, but we have to have everything off the pier, 100%. And then probably what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to run a feeder down there. I'll figure that out. I mean, we can probably do it, because Public Works just doesn't have
No,
they don't have the ability to do it with that, even with that septic truck. We can do it with a hand line, but we're gonna have to, obviously can't do it right now because it's too cold, but we're gonna try to do something like the first, sometime in April, as soon as it gets warm enough to do it. We're gonna try to do something, but we can't do anything until it warms up, and we're gonna have to make sure that everybody knows down there, we're gonna give them like 5 days. And if there's stuff still on the pier, it's going in a public works dump truck, it's going away.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna wait.
Well, it seems like we've got some time then to let things sort out, give you a chance to get some sort of a quote from the maintenance guy, figure out a plan for doing this. But yeah, April sounds like the time to do it.
Yeah, that's when we're gonna pressure, we'll put some water pressure.
Okay.
I still have a few thousand. I haven't really touched the account for pier maintenance in my budget. So there's a few thousand there. So any minor stuff, any emergency stuff, I can still get it done. And I haven't touched the money for crane maintenance either. That's something I probably have to do. Have to come down and just go through the cranes to make sure that they're working on it.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? I suggest we just leave it for old business for next meeting and
Yeah.
keep it on the agenda so we can keep talking about it, not let it fall through the cracks.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Gene, you just said something about there are still a few thousand in one fund, but then you haven't touched money in the crane fund.
Mhm.
What is the first one? So if there's the crane one, what's the other one? Just regular pier
Pier
maintenance?
maintenance.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and yeah, you know, we're gonna use the money, but unless I have something that immediately has to be done right now, I'd like to have the money there for a while, in case an emergency comes up. An already
So we're tabling for,
Yeah, we'll keep that on the agenda for next meeting, just to keep discussing it. Take some action before April.
do we make a motion for that?
No.
I don't think we need to. It just stays on. All right, our next topic. Chapter 1401, Coastal Waters and Harbors Ordinance, which I'm sure everyone spent the last week since we had extra time just pouring through this in excruciating detail. So maybe what we can do, just thinking about how we can make it through this thing. The fees, I think, is at the end, which is good. So maybe we can go through the other sections, end up with the fees, where I'm sure we're gonna have some good spirited discussion of what to do with the fees.
Now, the fees are part of chapter 311, so that's a different ordinance. I know that there are some in here, but the overall fees are part of chapter 311.
See, now my sheet here says chapter 1401. It's got.
Right, that's part of chapter 311, which is the schedule of fees.
Okay.
And that's separate. So when you said you wanted to discuss revisions of 1401, that's exactly what I gave you was 1401. So
So we can
that's an excerpt from,
But we can still make recommendations on changing fees.
well, I will tell you the fees, they probably won't take effect until next year. That's the only thing.
Next year, really? Okay. Well, all the more reason we should probably get going on that.
Fiscal or calendar?
Well, our mooring applications, unfortunately, we're getting ready to send those out right now. So those fees, the new fees wouldn't be implemented this year. That's the
Oh.
only thing.
All right, sounds like that's the way it works.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. That's the way it works.
Because usually you make the recommendations and they go to the ordinance committee for review, and then they go to the council. So you're looking at a few months and it's already into the mooring season and we've already sent out our applications.
Okay.
I
No,
mean,
that
we can
makes-
still work on them, but they
Yeah.
just won't take effect until,
No, that makes sense. You're thinking it through, it's a time thing. It's January. Yeah, if you're sending stuff out, it's.
we're already getting ready to send.
Okay.
And I know that Darren is working with us on a mooring program, so trying. Yeah.
All right, well then we'll focus on 1401.
Right, and I'm, I don't know what the rest of the folks did, but I did read those, and, the biggest piece of 1401 for me that's in there is that you've set the, what happens on that pier in writing on a piece of paper. It's not, nobody's forced to deal with it, when it's on there. Because Darren wouldn't be talking about having to clean the pier down there if they read 1401 when they pay their license fees. It specifically states, no storage. I mean, those floats are made for when you come in with your gear to put your gear on there. At low tide, you get it off of there, you move, you're gone. You're not tied up for days at a time. You're not, whatever. They're already written in there. You guys already did all the hard work. Now you just need to enforce what's written on the paper.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm thinking. We'll go through the articles. I think most of these articles, I don't think there's going to be any discussion or any question about. But maybe when we get to some of these where there are potential issues, why don't we make sure we bring that up? And especially if it's enforcement, then we need to be talking about that also. But I think our kind of short-term objective is to just see if we have any kind of revisions we want to have made in there.
I do know one new piece that we do need to add is the anchor that with regards to eelgrass. Is that what it is? The new
Yes.
anchor? We do need to add that in.
Mooring in reference to. eelgrass.
Mooring, yeah. So that's fairly new. I know Portland is working on theirs, and I believe they have to the end of this year to implement their changes.
Yeah, I think it's the end of 2022, I think.
Okay.
They have to have a different type of mooring if
Yeah,
they're,
they have to use it. I think I have it written here. I just have eel mooring.
right.
Okay,
So that would be something that would have to add.
we'll have to spell out here someplace. Okay,
We'd put it under definitions and then,
got it. Okay. So why don't we start with Article 1, General Provisions, which is pretty darn basic stuff. Harbor limits, channels, anchorage. Yeah, harbor master. Any questions, thoughts, potential revisions in Article 1? Yes.
I had a couple of questions. They referenced the definition for tidal waters.
Mhm.
So is that something, that needs to be updated or revised? My guess is that probably changes over time. So there were several others like that in that section. So, a number of those that I thought might require some sort of, there's channels, the definition of channels, the definitions of anchorages. Maybe those need to be updated or, as the rules changed since this was drafted originally, would be my question. And is there any direction from the state on those or from legal counsel? So, and I would just suggest just in a way to save time and money, that we try to see if there's any direction from the state and incorporate that in whatever changes you make here, and then save the legal review for the very end. Do it at the end, so we're dragging the legal folks through.
I did the same thing with number 12. It says headway speed.
Yeah.
And I just wrote use state definition.
Mhm.
So that we're not, because when you go into a legal proceeding, if you're not using a legal, it's gonna get written under Title 12, headway speed. And if the summons gets written as a headway speed violation of the ordinance, and the ordinance doesn't mirror state law, it's gonna be an issue.
An issue, that's for sure. So how do we actually go about doing that? How do we need to, we don't really know what the state things are. Is there somebody who understands?
I think we're gonna have to go through, I think we just have to go through here and identify areas that we want to address.
Okay,
And then I think what we should do is, we should divvy it up and like everybody take like, 2 sections and do a little homework and come back, and then we can change the wording, and then we'll send it to legal,
Yeah,
to Tony,
send it
and
to
she, and then it can go, once we get her to sign off with legal, then it can go through the process.
Because what I'll do is I'll take the changes that you recommend and do a red line strike version, so
Right.
you can see what we're changing. You can
Okay.
compare.
so do you think we need to have more research then, and before we start going through this, Jeremy?
No, I think we need to go through this right now.
Okay,
And I think we need to take like section, like I would just say, we need to take section 2, the whole section.
Mhm.
And we need to make sure that tidal water channels and anchorage, those are appropriate.
okay,
And then once we get to the end of it, then each of us will take a few sections
okay,
and we can do a little research and come back next week, and then we can give some data to Tony, and then she can redline it. And this process of looking at this is gonna take 6 months. There's no doubt about it. I really understand
It's
that.
up- all right, that's good.
So I think that, yeah, harbor limits, section 2, that has to be 2, 3, and 4 should be looked at.
Okay,
Are you talking, oh, yeah, okay.
in Article
section 2.
1.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Section 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
And you use the word appropriate, which means what does that mean?
As far as what?
Definitions.
What do you mean?
I would use the state definition of some of these, that the state law has already recognized in the statute.
Got it.
5, I'm good with 5. I'm not
Yeah.
concerned about 5.
Liam, if you can make sure to capture the spirit of that in the minutes, then we're gonna yield to the state definitions of everything in general.
Less concerned about Article 5 or Section 5?
Section 5. It says other areas, we're not concerned about section 5 right now.
Yeah, this is all in Article 1.
Mhm.
Oh, Mike, yes, I did get that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's just important.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. You can read this one. I have no issues with section 6 under the harbor masters, where he gets his authority from, he's appointed by the town.
Mhm.
Title 38 is the proper title, which is good.
You jump from Article 1 to 6 there, Darren?
I'm sorry, section 5 to 6, I'm sorry, harbor master. I was good with 5, yep, 5, 6, 7. Now we're going into Article 2 of definitions. Again, I think that anchorage needs a little bit of attention because there's a definition of anchorage under the Army Corps of Engineers in the state. So that should be looked at. The term auxiliary, I'm not sure where they came up with this, but shall mean any vessel having both sails and either an inboard or outboard motor, which may propel by itself. I'm not sure we call it an auxiliary. I think we call that a sailing vessel. And then we define it under power or sail.
And the reason we have definitions is because these are gonna show up somewhere later on in
Right,
the ordinance, right? Okay, so there must be something referring to auxiliary somewhere.
Right. in, under beach, it says shall mean a public or private beach area bordering the waters of Scarborough Harbor. I think I would get rid of harbor, I would strike it, and just put the waters of Scarborough. Because the Scarborough Harbor, Hidden Beach is not Scarborough Harbor. There really is no Scarborough Harbor, there's another Point Harbor. So that was just. I had another one of these that was all marked up, but I brought the wrong one, it's on my dining table. But I know, I've read it about 10 times, so I know what I.
Yeah, so are you saying then that the only harbor that's under the, you know, that defined in the town of Scarborough is down at the point, down where the pier is, or are there other harbors?
Well, I don't know what the intention of was, but it says for beach. Shall maintain a public or private beach area bordering the waters of Scarborough Harbor. So I would change, what's that like?
Yeah, we do have harbor limits specified in section 2 of Article 1. Talks a little bit. Article 1, section 2. Section 2.
Shall
Yeah.
include the navigable portion. of the
Harbors and
source,
waterways,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's more than just that one area, it's Spurwink, but it's wherever you can navigate a vessel, right? Is that?
Well, I think that we just gotta be careful. Shall mean the public or private beach area bordering the waters of Scarborough Harbor. I would put the waters of Scarborough, period. Because you've got the Libby River, you've got the Dunstan River, you have the Nonsuch River, you've got,
So you're expanding the definition for beaches so that it ties with harbor.
yeah, we're just getting rid of, we're striking the harbor and just putting the Scarborough, you know, the borders of waters of Scarborough. That way
Includes Higgins Beach.
includes Hidden Beach and Spurwink River, et cetera.
Yeah, because it seems like it's talking about more than just.
Well, I think when they wrote this, reading this, they were thinking, the ideology behind it was the Pine Point Co-op Harbor. That's what this whole thing, that's why I was like, we gotta get away from that.
May I might, because of the name of this committee, respectfully suggest that you say coastal waters of Scarborough. Maybe,
Under the beach definition,
right,
yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, show me a public or private beach area bordering the coastal waters of Scarborough. Right,
Which is a little more than the harbor limits that we talk about in Article 1, section 2.
right. But again, we can identify that. I mean, later on, I'm just trying to go through what I had, and, you know, jog some. Again, boat, we should be changing boat to watercraft and using the state definition.
So, Darren, quick question for you. So if we're talking watercraft, would that include jet skis?
Yeah, that's what I mean. When we say boat, the problem is when you look at the definition of a boat, and the definition of a watercraft, they're under the federal statute of the CFR and under the state statute. If we use boat, we can't use a paddleboard because that's not, it's not a boat, it's a watercraft.
Thanks. Something every day.
But I'm guessing that probably means that boat is probably going to show up somewhere later on.
Right,
So
and we're gonna
do
have,
a find and replace kind of
that's
thing.
right.
Make sure we.
So number 13, houseboat, that would be considered a watercraft, yes?
It is, but there's a specific definition of state statute for houseboat.
Okay.
Again,
I can
commercial
just jump into
fishing,
it.
community distress. Headway speed I had marked as use the state definition.
Mhm,
Houseboat using state definition.
okay.
Do we, under 16, the 3-month thing where it says the town of Scarborough for at least 3 months prior to the time his or her claim of residence is made, is that still in effect? Does that meet the residency requirement for everything else, or is there something else in ordinance or
Well,
town policy that says you have to be here for 6 months? I'm just asking, I didn't know.
shellfish, commercial shellfish,
And how long do you have to be in town?
6 months.
See, so there's it's, again, so that has to be looked at.
Okay. And that could change if they change the shellfish.
Yeah, because I have
ordinance to
that
what?
right here, it's the residency requirement. right here
Right.
for shellfish.
So,
I just think they should
Yeah, we should be consistent.
We should be consistent.
Yep.
Oh, no, I agree with you, yeah.
Mhm.
So where do you think the mooring, that one change to the mooring should go, that you abreast?
In moorings, I'll show you. I have it.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah, there's
Thank
a
you.
more section.
There is.
Gotcha. okay.
While we're on the topic of moorings, it just occurred to me, I know there's a lot of work underway in terms of updating moorings, the list and so
Mhm.
forth. Is that gonna have any effect here? Like, are you gonna wanna have new language that would govern that, or is that something that we would do after we make these updates? It's just kind of a process question.
We would tweak the application once all these changes are made. Right now, everything that we have is reflecting what's in this
Here.
current ordinance. So once this is amended or accepted, we would make those changes on the application at that time.
Once this was all
Right,
done, right.
Okay.
once it's all done and approved by the council.
So, but my question is, there's a lot of things we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's coming forward in terms of changes that you might be recommending based on the work that's been done on moorings, the whole capital M moorings, everything
Yeah.
that they're doing. So is there a way for us to capture that? So we want to make sure that that gets included rather than doing it after we make one sweep of revisions. I don't have an answer, it's just a question.
I think that
The last time we amended the ordinance, we mailed, I don't know if this is what the response you were looking for, but once, the last time we amended the ordinance, we mailed it all out to the current holders so they could have input. And it took a little, and that was when we implemented where they had to have their insurance and their boat registration brought in. And that's helped quite a bit since we've made that change. But we actually mailed it out to all the mooring holders to get their feedback. And most everybody was positive for that change. So I don't know if that
It's a good
answers.
idea. I mean, I'm kind of curious if there would be some benefit to having a schedule of that process for the changes and make sure that that's, we're gonna find a way to pipe that into the
Yeah,
revisions. Because
that's a good idea.
you know what I mean? We're kind of like dealing with something that's not current state. And we know things are going to be changing soon, next 12 months or something. I guess there's stuff coming. I don't know the timing of it, but it's a question. Again, I don't have a solution.
Okay, why don't we take a little side discussion on that and see if we can figure out some sort of a schedule for how to do this? Because I know, as you said, there's a lot in here. Is it going to take 6 months? Well, I think we need to kind of define. how
Well,
long
if we
you
could
want it
have
to
it in
take.
place before the next cycle, next year,
right, the next.
that would
cycle,
be my goal, would be to be able to have it in place probably by the end of this year.
there's-
That way it would be ready for
For
the new
next
year
year,
and we'd have enough notice to send out to mooring holders
Okay,
that, to tell them this is what the committee's
So
recommending.
Tony, you mean like season, like calendar?
No, our
year?
seasons for the moorings are, like I say, we're starting to get those ready to be mailed out and they have March, April to get them back to us. So we send out everything in March
Okay.
and they have until like April to get them back to us.
yeah, that's a
So we
great way to
would
look
need
at this.
to-
What's our deadline and when do we need to have this thing done in order to impact 2023?
I'd say by the end of the year.
That's in by November.
Yeah,
Yeah, to
definitely.
be on the safe side, I think we should be a little,
Mhm,
I think that this should be corrected and the fee structure should be corrected by November.
mhm.
okay,
Yeah, and it would
Alright.
give people enough notice to
good. So
be
we
aware
have
of the
November,
changes.
then we can just back up from there on when we need to,
Depending on how quickly you get through these revisions and
Mhm.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, so.
so we think in November when we want to have it done.
At least by the last, the
Yeah.
council meeting in November would be the
Okay.
last meeting in November before the council, because it
Okay.
takes 3 meetings. You have the first reading, the public hearing, then the final reading. So there's 3. So you're into October. So then it would have to go before the ordinance
Ordinance.
committee. And we don't know how long the ordinance would take to review the recommendations and bring it forward to the council. So you're
Yeah.
looking at, what, September, maybe?
Ordinance could be quick, could take
Yeah.
a while depending on the state, that
Right.
it's in.
Mhm.
How finished it is and how much of the legal review and everything's done.
Right.
So, but,
Yeah.
good idea. A lot of time for that.
So do we think September then will be good enough to have it done by then? We're not Rewriting it,
that's
making
including-
changes.
You got summer in there, so what do you think?
Our election coming up.
Maybe shoot for.
Sorry.
Just throw everything.
What's that?
It's busy around November time.
It's okay.
August? Because I think the step before that is we're gonna want to send this out to any stakeholders for their
Mhm.
comments.
Yeah.
We want to get it done.
Yeah.
And here
Well,
it's
we
ready to
can
go,
still
send it out to
review
other
it.
people for comments,
Mhm.
have a chance to look at that. So,
And we can also, when we send out our, I'm just thinking here off the cuff, when we send out our renewals, we can
Mhm.
also make a note that this committee is reviewing the
Okay.
ordinance. And
And you
these are the
send-
dates.
and when do those get sent out?
They're getting ready to be sent
Sent out
shortly.
now,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
February, March, yeah.
all right. Yeah, to give people a heads up. that,
Right.
yeah, we're in the
Because you got
process
like-
of doing
200? That includes Prouts Neck, right?
No, it's like it's like 220 Gene in the Inner Harbor, is that right? 220 something, and then I see the yacht club has like 85 more. So it's like the, what, the 3 something, 350. I mean, the yacht club gets probably 85 notices themselves, but whatever, you know.
I heard Tony say summer there. Which,
Yeah, we
throwing
got, yeah, we got
whatever
summer in
sticks
there.
Against the wall, sounds like it's before September to me. This is your.
Yeah, better safe than sorry, we all know that. So maybe August?
I would say.
Because then I'm thinking, backing up from August, if we're gonna send it out for people's comment, we have to send it out, get the comments back, maybe incorporate any changes, so that could happen in July then, which means we have to send it out in June.
That's what I was thinking.
We do have email addresses too, so.
Yeah,
we
but it's
can-
just
yeah.
a cycle kind of a thing.
But if you make them aware of it beforehand, they may have, that may put it on the radar.
So one thing to keep in mind is at least I know when we were doing comprehensive plan changes, there was a fair amount of work that both committees put in, shellfish and coastal. And
Mhm.
there's a fair amount of bird dogging, to kind of make sure we were connecting with the, the folks it's going to affect most directly. And sure, either said, got them to confirm everything or to say, hey, change this, change that.
Yeah, we don't want to neglect that stuff, because that's how people just be cranky, when it's like, oh, I didn't get a chance to put my 2
Yeah.
cents in.
Yeah.
And we should make sure there's plenty of time for that. So if we have it finalized by August to turn over to the ordinance committee, July, we review any changes. June, we send out for comment from stakeholders. Which sounds like we need to have our work done by June in order to send it out. Does that sound about right?
May,
So
June.
it's June comment, July, what?
Let's figure it out in a second. In June, we send it out for comments from stakeholders.
Mhm.
July, we review any feedback, make any additional revisions, and send it to the ordinance committee in August.
Thank you.
So that gives us until, yeah, this will go much faster than we all expect.
Mhm. Vinny, did you have a comment? I know I heard you say something, but I wasn't sure if we cut you off.
No, I'm fine. I think are we definitely gonna go with all the definitions of the state? Is that gonna be the go-to for all the definitions in the, definition of a houseboat? I mean, there's tons of arguments all the time up and down where they're VRBO and houseboats now, so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we're just gonna change a few of the definitions that are really, I was looking at the definitions that we would potentially take enforcement action on, is the definitions that we want to change to mirror the state
Yeah.
statute.
Yeah, it's kind of the context of where they show up later on. That's what's going to be significant. Like if, I didn't notice we had anything in here about houseboats specifically.
I had a question, if there's
Must
ever
be
been a
some-
houseboat anchored there, based upon, and then as they describe a marina that offers all these services. I don't know if you know that. Anything
I
like
think
that.
there is something in there about houseboats. Boats or something. All right, so where the heck are we? So I think we've got kind of a schedule there. We're gonna get this done by June. Back to definitions.
Yep, and
That's where we left off.
Yep, we're past resident, we just did resident, and then, riparian shore shall may state, 21 stray vessel, there's no such thing as a stray vessel. It's abandoned. And that's again, if you have to declare, if the harbor master has declared abandoned, it has to be an abandoned vessel under the statute. He can't, it's not a stray vessel, it's abandoned, and it's the only way that he can recoup money from the state to get it out of the water, somebody abandoned. So I mean, get rid of stray, and that has to be abandoned vessel.
Yeah, because abandoned shows up specifically up in. It's on page 10, whatever that is. It mentions abandoned, it doesn't say stray.
Article 5.
Then I went into Article 3, where it says Section 1 Traffic Control Authority.
So you're good on everything else in the definitions? Huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Traffic Control Authority, first of all, traffic has to do with the motor vehicle. So you have to put either waterborne traffic or waterborne or watercraft control authority. Gene is not running radar in the harbor, so traffic does not apply.
Well, it does say control waterborne traffic in the first.
It does,
sentence.
but we should be getting rid of traffic. And then the basic speed law should be, again, that should be referencing headway speed. And that should be the Title 12 definition of
Well,
headway
as
speed.
far as the same titles then.
As far as Section 2, where it says basic speed law, it should be the mirror of Title 12 headway speed law, where Gene's gonna write it under.
Okay.
Now, we can leave some of this, it really depends on how he writes this, or any law enforcement officer writes it, because if we want the revenue to come back to the town, we want him to write it under the ordinance, and he writes it under Article 3, Section 2, headway speed, that money, that revenue comes back to the general fund. But if he writes it as a Title 12 violation under state law, that revenue goes to the state. So you have to understand that right from the beginning.
So, let me ask you this, so, there's a reference in here in terms of the governing law and enforcement. What part of that does it cover, Darren, that you just, offhand? I mean,
Say that again.
So, under Article 11, I'm testing my Roman numeral.
So it's page 14.
So the ordinance, the enforcement rights arise from this article. So is this current, or do you know what it refers to? Because I haven't, I didn't take the time to read the state reg on it, but is that relevant to what you just mentioned?
Yeah, so what this says is, without the legal jargon, Title 38 of the Maine Revised Statute annotated gives Gene the authority to operate as a harbor master, which it doesn't really apply to him because he's a full-time sworn law enforcement officer, but it gives him the ability to utilize Title 38 as they obey a harbor master, and there's some other things. Title 12, which incorporates the enforcement mechanism of 30 and 4452, where applicable, that gives him the ability to enforce the Title 12 watercraft statute law, is what it does.
The state law.
It's a state law.
Okay.
So this just is basically saying the enforcement of this will fall under the ordinance, under the harbor master, under the authority under Title 38 given to him, under the authority of what Title 12 regulates waterways management is what it is. But when it comes down to him writing the actual violation, if he writes it as a violation of ordinance, Article 3, Section 2, headway speed, that money that's earmarked as a violation or whatever is deemed a violation to the court system, that money comes back to the town of Starville. If Gene writes Joe Q. Fisherman, and he doesn't write them under Article 3, Section 2, and he writes them under Title 12, 1385, 852, headway speed of a watercraft, the money that's assessed from that fine amount goes to the general fund of the state, doesn't come back to the town.
No, that makes sense. So does that mean that we have to make sure this is all in sync with a separate ordinance? It's got all the fines and fees
Well,
associated
what
with
we
it?
have to make sure is that, no, because the court will assess the fine amount based on an ordinance violation, and they will just assign it. This is strictly fee structure.
Okay, so we don't have to set
We do not have to set. a fee.
fines and fees for any
Not for a
violation.
violation.
Well, that's good. That would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? So the lawyers make their keep. All right. So you were talking about the.
Section, I was in section
Section
2, article
two of
3.
Article 3, okay.
We would just, that needs to be looked at, and just, it may have to say, section 2, headway speed ordinance. The operation may vest with the anchorage in excess of headway speed, which are constitute violation of the ordinance. However, the harbor master may grant written permission to exceed the headway speed in connection with a water sport, regatta, blah, blah, blah. It's not driven, watercraft law is not driven on speed, it's driven on mobility and headway speed.
Yeah.
So that just needs to be, it's all, it's semantics, but.
Yeah, it seems like this could be one that could be a contention in here, the speed limit.
It is.
I wasn't going fast, you said I'm going fast.
Well, and that goes back to, that goes back to this definition. If it says headway speed, it goes back and it says, if the state definition is.
Yeah.
The minimum propulsion to maintain steerage ability of your watercraft.
Mhm.
So the minimum propulsion is clutch ahead.
Yep.
You know, obviously, some people have to move prior to clutch ahead to maintain that when they're coming up the river. So that's why they say the minimum propulsion to maintain steerage control of the vessel. Where some of this is, it's very contradicting, like speed laws and traffic authority, and Gene's gonna be issuing traffic tickets in the harbor. I think.
I'd be curious when the last time someone got a ticket down there in a boat.
I used to just hand them out like candy every week. So I can't tell you. I don't know what, and that was when Dave was here. I used to hand them out like they were just like sticky notes on people's foreheads, so. But that was when I worked at the state, so. And the Saco River was even better, because I'd go up the river and ticket my way up and ticket my way back down, so.
Do we have a sign up that says headway speed?
Yeah, they're all.
We do, okay, I thought so.
We have some new ones too. Is that, I can move on.
It's the first excuse, I didn't know. I thought I could go zooming through here.
That's right.
All right, so that's, anything else on Article 3?
I have a question about Article 3, Section 2, where we just were.
Yes.
May grant special, what is special?
Where it says, he may grant special permission to exceed headway speed in connection with the water. So if we had a lobster boat race, or let's say there was some, the town decided to have a jet ski race or a water tube race he can give them special authority without some special, without revisiting the ordinance. Gene and say, you want to hold that regatta here? You can, and here's your permit from this, on this date from 10 to 2, you can run that jet ski as fast as you want up and down the harbor.
Special has a particular meaning that I didn't understand. And is there any time relevance to that the permission needs to be granted so much time in advance, or is that under some other?
It seems pretty general.
It seems very general, and I think that those are few and far between. I don't think that we would be getting anything like that wouldn't be coming forward to him.
Well, yeah, he's got discretion, it sounds like.
And that's, I wouldn't want to box him in. I wouldn't
Yeah,
wanna-
if someone said tomorrow we're gonna do, no.
There you go, that's discretion.
You know, on August 4th, we want to do this. Yeah.
And if it's an event that's a large event that's considered a mass gathering, they would have to get a special permit.
If you're a
from the
mass
town.
gathering permit.
That would automatically trigger, depending on the number of participants and spectators.
All right, here's what I'm thinking. We're not gonna make it through this. 6:25. Why don't we stop here, end of Article 3, pick it up at Article 4 next meeting?
And I'll try to
Continue
make
the
these
discussion.
changes.
That sound reasonable? And then see what else we have on our agenda. I don't think we have too much here. Setting the,
So if I could, the Shellfish Commission meets next month, and I believe they were wondering if it was going to be a joint meeting between this committee, and not the whole time of the meeting, but
there's a good question. Well, I think our big agenda item for next month is going to be to continue to go through this.
okay.
Do we have anything pressing where we need to be working with the Shellfish guys that can't wait for another? I'd like to see us kind of make some good progress on this.
Yeah, I think we have to get,
And so maybe we'll think about that for March, but not for February.
I'll contact
Maybe
Nate.
let them know.
Sure.
One thing that I just wanted to mention, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but in regards to the combined committee meeting, I feel that there is an issue that applies to both the harbor committee as well as the shellfish committee, and that will be the ongoing issue of down at Winnick's Neck, the people who live on the left side, right up against the marsh. I believe we talked about it before here. There's a parking issue as well as a dock issue. And it seems that it has continued to be a problem for clammers down there. I personally had an issue with it earlier in the month, and
Oh, this one?
I mean, within the past 30 days.
Or recently, okay.
And I just wanted to make sure that doesn't fall any more by the wayside than it already has. Because it puts someone like myself who's just trying to go to work in a compromising position. So I definitely think it should be dealt with.
So is that an enforcement issue then?
I think there's probably a lot of issues that go into this. I think, sure, enforcement may be part of it. I don't know what can be done, but I just think that it would be of interest to clammers as well as waterfront people. I just want to mention that about the combined committee meeting.
Yeah, I'm just. The question is, if we have enforcement issues that come up, doesn't seem like those are necessarily things that we need to be working on as a committee. It seems like it's more of a, there's a process for enforcement. Isn't there?
Well, yeah,
We
so I
need to
think.
change rules, I think we'd be doing it.
Well, so in a perfect world, I would agree with you, Mike, but it seems that there are, I don't know whose desk this issue has stopped on, but it must have stopped somewhere, because again, this is still an ongoing issue and it's been talked about at committees, either this one or the shellfish one, for over a year.
Okay.
So when people that clammers turn to, whether it is Gene or a state warden or other town officials or, you know, the man, and nothing happens or nothing changes to my or other clammers to their needs, I guess. Then
what is the issue?
so the issue is that there is a house that the last house on this little road, there are two issues. One, the people there have built a dock that, from my understanding, is not up to the town. It's not okay with the town. I don't know what the words would be to say.
Does it mean the
properly.
shoreline zoning requirement?
I don't know. Something.
If I could just clarify, that's a code enforcement is already, it's a dock issue.
The
I've
doctor, okay.
been dealing with this since it became common. The owner of the property was going to come to, he thought there was a shellfish coming in tonight. He wants to come and have a discussion with the shellfish.
With the shellfish.
Saying
Okay.
what are the issues? I need specific issues. I hear one or two people saying, I can't get there. But then I have other guys down there claiming all the time.
Is it a title issue?
Right, so I think that part of the issue is that they have the issue that would affect me more personally, or maybe another planner, revolves around the parking aspect of it. And there's, you can drive down, the road sort of ends and turns into like a rocky, sandy, sort of rudimentary landing. You wouldn't want to bring your 20-foot boat down there, but you could put your canoe or a dinghy down there. And some people may park over on, one side, when you're looking at the ocean on the right-hand side. And I think that's favorable by the people who own the house down there. But when some people don't park on that side and they park on the left side, which is where I've parked, they call the police and they make obscene accusations, and they make it difficult for me to go down there and work. And that's not okay.
This is being dealt with. I think we need to have a discussion at the meeting with the homeowner.
Yep.
And have exactly what is the issue. He doesn't really have any.
Well, I mean,
Now, we have to have code enforcement really decide who owns what land now. Okay. We had a survey done a while ago that shows some ownership.
what happened with the survey?
We're gonna present this. I'm gonna ask him to make copies for me, and I'll happily give it everybody.
Do you know what happened with the survey? Like, can you give me like a preview before next month?
I haven't really,
The survey?
I haven't looked at it, I've looked at the code enforcement. It's being dealt with, and I have to have specific dates, times, and violations. Just a blanket statement saying, we have a hard time getting down there. I can't do much with that. As far as the snowbank, I'll address that with Mike Shaw from Public Works. That's a done issue, there'll be no snow plow.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot more to say about it, but I guess maybe this isn't.
So is he coming to the shellfish meeting next?
Yes,
Then we'll just wait
Okay,
for
yeah,
that.
it sounds like that'd be helpful.
That'll
because
be
that's-
a constructive conversation.
yes, this issue needs to be put to sleep.
Okay,
So, I mean, I guess I'm curious if there were to be something that one of the committees wanted to weigh in about the parking situation, would that be more of a coastal waters access question, or would that be a clam conservation question? Because to me, it seems like it would be, our business here is one of the things is water access, and that's what the question is here.
just my thought on that is that if we were gonna propose some sort of a change to the parking setup or something, that might be something for us to do.
Well, so I guess, I don't know really what we could change, but I know, for example, the homeowners have put up their own no parking sign. And that's what they're calling the police on someone like me for parking it. And I'm not very likely to move my vehicle for someone who's being unpleasant and a sign that means nothing.
Mhm.
So,
What I suggest,
Yeah.
when we dealt with parking issues in the past year, we had extensive series of meetings, joint meetings with Shellfish and Coastal Water. So I would recommend that this would be a matter that ought to be addressed
You know,
by
as
both
co-committees,
committees.
as a
And especially
commission.
if you're gonna have the property owner come and, they're all shall be revealed in terms of, what enforcement actions have been taken and what might be left remaining. But it does occur to me that this is a public landing.
Yeah.
This is one of our town landings. It's, I believe.
It is an
it's
official
in the
town landing.
comprehensive plan.
It is.
It's on the map. So if we're having a problem with people accessing it and other related problems with the property owners, yeah, it sounds like we should take the time to suss it out.
And there is state law out there. I would dig it up. I have it on a computer, but I can find it. There is right to access out there, because we dealt with an issue. Of course. I dealt with an issue in Georgetown years ago, same similar issue. And the landowner was doing the same, similar. And it was, if you're fishing, navigating or fouling, like, you cannot obstruct it. And if you're in the intertidal zone, you cannot, like, I'm talking about the property owners, but that, I'm not gonna speak too much until I I know what I'm talking about, but I can tell you that. There's a very, very strict state law that says, if you are a commercial harvester and you are harvesting and you park it in their title zone like that, they don't own the winter title zone.
Right, so I guess maybe I'll just leave it like I'm definitely
Right.
aware of that idea, that's why I have a problem with it, so maybe I'll just leave it off.
I think it's best to put it to a commit, the whole committee, once Gene has some background information and everything, and we'll have a discussion.
Well, so, so I guess I'll leave my piece
What
there.
we need to do is get as many clam harvesters here. See what kind of issues we have.
Well, I mean, I'm having an issue.
Right, I want everyone that has issues. to-
Yeah, but it can't be just one person. It's gotta be like the
Yeah.
totality
Or
of
it's a
the group.
personal thing.
Right.
People think it-
If there's 20 of you having an issue, or one of you having an issue, that's a different issue.
Well, I'll just try to say again, I guess.
I think
what
Vinny
would-
wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I just
Vinny,
want,
go ahead.
I would make sure that as a committee, we make sure that we look at the definition of access and the definition of parking, because they don't necessarily go hand in hand. You might be allowed access to do your work, but you might not be allowed to park at a certain spot. There's two totally different conversations there, and I'm pretty sure as far as the state is concerned.
We're gonna add access to the definitions, it's not in there.
Well, so I guess I just, I have
Parking, right? Two different
John.
conversations.
Say it again, Vinny?
I said access and parking are two different things, they're two different conversations.
It's true.
But I'd recommend it would be a joint meeting, so you have, well, you got a broad audience there.
Yes.
Hear a thing.
So do we want to do that for February then? Sounds like it's pretty,
If it's
Pretty
if it's a
relevant
contentious
topic.
issue,
What you could
We
do,
need to
this
get
is just a
the-
suggestion,
The homeowners is more than happy. to-
So I think we should do it that way.
okay. All right,
Maybe what we do,
Yeah.
in all honesty, maybe we have a joint meeting in February, and we bring them in first. And then after the first, we flush that issue out with them, once the shelter screen leaves, we can go back into
Yeah,
this.
that's good.
That way, if we go more than an hour, we have time to just do it.
I'm not sure, Dolly, would you just?
I'm just saying, let's have a joint meeting first,
Uh-huh.
and then after we flush this issue out,
Yeah.
we can sit down, us, and go through this, so we're not time.
So break it
So you
into
have
separate
time to get
sessions.
So we get, so we have a few hours if we need to
Yeah.
get through this, so we get,
Yeah.
because we're gonna be pushing the envelope here. if we wait till
Yeah, exactly.
July.
If we wait till March, we're gonna run out of time.
at 5:30?
Yes.
You want the
Let's
joint
plan a
meeting? Okay.
Joint meeting at 5:30 in February.
I'm gonna take the first 4 pages, if everybody's okay, that I ran my mouth about, and I will prove that.
No, it's good. You're adding value here. You're taking a close look at this. That's it.
These ordinances go 18 pages is nothing, you know.
I would think
Yeah,
so.
really.
Yeah.
Right,
I can imagine
350
doing this on a larger scale must be a lot
You
of
get one
fun.
that's 500 and some pages
Wow.
out
Yeah.
there, so. I'll try to work on this, do the somewhat, the red, the red
Right.
line strike through, get that started.
Okay, so agenda for, so we're gonna have a joint meeting in February. And we want to, as the first item, I don't know how you want to word this, but, which I think you could probably word it.
I would say
pretty well.
Winnick Neck access.
When it's next.
Just leave it at
access,
that.
okay.
Yeah,
When it's
discussion
next,
on, yeah,
access discussion
Right.
will be our first, and then special revisions to chapter 1401 will be our second
Yeah, absolutely.
item, and actually a maintenance update also.
Yeah,
So let's put the maintenance update
get it
first,
on there, yeah.
then Winnick's Neck, then chapter 1401.
Do we have members of the public that would like to speak?
Yeah, that's where we're gonna go next.
Sorry.
Quick question to clarify, the Winnick's next issue for the agenda would be a discussion item as opposed to an action item, is that right?
Correct.
Thanks.
So I guess that does make a difference.
And I think we wait to visit the fee structure till we get through this.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Yeah, fee structure is gonna be further down the road.
Right.
Mhm. Okay, good.
Because that
All
won't
right.
take as long to go through as this.
No, it won't. We were just going through, we went through a lot, yeah.
Should be easy.
5 here, 5 there, 10 there, 10 there. It's like putting trading cards around the table.
All right.
May I ask the chair a question?
Yes.
Would the chair allow me 60 seconds to introduce myself? To the other
Absolutely.
members? My name's Marvin Gates. I live at 423 Black Point Road. Grew up here summers, moved back here as full-time resident about 6 years ago, my wife and I. I sit on the Long Range Planning Committee, have for about a year, helped finish up with the comprehensive plan. Interested in town affairs. When I saw there was an opening on this committee, I have a couple of interests in town specifically. However, when I saw Harbor's and coastal waters, they're not inventing any more of those. I can't think of a
Right.
more, I can't think of a more valuable resource. So when you're talking about fees, I'm just thinking you can't charge enough. You know,
Right,
almost,
sure.
I mean, I don't hold any expertise in the profession or anything like that.
We don't either.
We have opinions. It's all good, yeah.
And thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you, welcome.
wonderful.
My name is Liam Erickson.
Hi.
Hello,
Please meet you.
nice to meet you.
Excellent.
Is there a public comment?
Yes,
Yes,
he's gonna-
public
yeah.
comment right now. Yes, you have the floor.
So you have to speak loud because the
Oh,
only
okay.
mic is right here.
Well, I'll stand.
Okay.
I'm Maura Erickson and I live at 288 Pine Point Road. And I am I came because I want the town to I want them to do some research and I want them to find out all of the public accesses to water in the town of Scarborough, whether it's the ocean or the little river and tributaries, the little tributaries that we have around. And I want them to post them, public access, because I can name 3 or 4 different places in Pine Point, and I'm sure at every other beach, where there are people who live next to these water accesses, but they have for some reason made it seem like it's their own private access by whether it's parking their car right up close to the access point or putting their trash cans there or their big planters there in the summer and they mow it, or they put their, their deck right there and their lawn chairs and their Adirondack chairs and their grill and everything else. So it makes it look real private, but really it's public. But they don't want you to know that. And I'm sick of that. And I want the town to invest it in that. I want my tax money to go to that. Because I'm tired of people like, for instance, my people I know trying to get their jobs done or doing things like that and going down and being harassed or being unable to do their things that they need to do to get into the water. They want to go, and my daughter wants to go and sit and enjoy eating an Italian sandwich down by the water's edge. And some guy comes out and tells her, move your car. You don't have any right to park here. And she thinks, oh, wow, I thought this was public access. Secretly it is, but he's got his no parking sign up there. She's not going to be feeling like she can confront this gentleman who's really harassing her and intimidating her. So she moves. And I don't want that to happen anymore. And I think every single person should be able to enjoy the views that we are entitled to. And I want my tax money to be spent making every single person aware of where these public land, these pieces are. And I'm going to come to every single meeting and remind you of this until those signs are up. Just like I'm going to go to the town council meetings because I've been asking this for, I don't know how long, 2 years now. So you'll see my face.
Well, appreciate your comments. I think this is under our jurisdiction.
It is, that's why I come here.
It is.
Okay. So
Isn't it posted online? Didn't we talk about this?
we have talked about this at some point. So why don't we put something on the agenda for next meeting to discuss the access points? And maybe,
Yeah. I have them listed right here because I wrote them down last time.
okay,
Well, the ones that,
can someone volunteer to research this to see if there's a list someplace? I think that's a good way to get the process
so
started.
you're gonna give us that? I thought we had a
That's a
list.
great point.
I think there is. Isn't there part of the
We
comp
have a
plan?
town lawyer, we
Yeah.
have people who can do the research.
What's that one?
I think you're right,
I think
Don.
it's on the town website, I thought.
Yeah,
We did it
you would
before the
think so.
comp plan, but it was really just access, it was public access to the waterways. It didn't include other areas like Avenue 2, for example, the pathway at Avenue 2. There's a right of way.
Yeah, the end of Avenue too, there's a right away there, there's a bunch of them.
So
Yeah,
that would
through there.
include, I think what I was talking about would include those things.
Okay. We'll
Avenue
definitely look
2,
at
Avenue 5, that I'm gonna say, Fred Bailey's front, all kinds of places
Mhm.
that people are assuming are private and they're really public.
And there is frankly a risk of these aren't used and identified and posted, that abutters could
Start
act
crawling
like
into
their
this
own,
space.
it's called adverse possession. It's a very, very hard thing to defend against as a town, once that gets
The
going.
thing too is a lot of those right of ways that run from Driftwood Lane over to Pillsbury Shores. They start on Driftwood Lane and there's a path, 36 inches that go between the properties.
Mhm.
So that those people on Driftwood Lane don't have to walk all the way down to Herd Park or all the way down to River Bend.
Right.
And there's like 3 or 4 of those that I'm pretty sure they were labeled in the past, but I mean, I drive down there all the time 'cause on a fire call or whatever, I'm down there all the time, but we should look at those because those people on Driftwood Lane, they have a right of beach access. And if that's all obstructed, and some of those I'm sure are overgrown, they should have free access all the way to the beach. That's what those are for.
Okay. Good. We're discussing the next meeting. Okay. Any other public comments? All right.
I can make one comment.
Yeah,
It looks like we have secured the money for the direct bridging.
really?
So
Oh, excellent.
we're gonna be on, I'm gonna have a full presentation for that when I get more information.
Okay.
We're gonna do an emergency step to get the channel cleared and then later on come back and do some work. So that's really good news for me.
Mm.
Yeah, that sounds
And
like.
I want to get it accomplished before, because at this point, the channel is going through the Pulse Lake Yacht Club, and I'm gonna keep them in the whole loop through also Mappy down there. But I want to get that dredging done so they can have their moorings down there. The season.
So that's gonna happen in the springtime?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
This is really
I'm
good
amazed.
news. This is really good news, number
Yeah.
one. Number two, it didn't happen by itself. It happened
Yeah.
because the folks in the committee raised this as an issue.
Yep.
There was dialogue
Squeaky
about
wheel.
it.
Yeah.
Tom was very persistent. Tom Hall, our town manager, was very persistent, following up with the Army Corps and our contacts there. So, and thanks to everybody for the.
I'm amazed that they could react that quickly.
I think it was a matter of,
It was like an emergency.
well, I think what transpired, the way it was is when there were a few buoys laid over, Gene and I talked about it. And just with my connections through the Harbor Masters Association, I called Mike and Mike said, it's not that bad. And I said, Mike, I'm telling you right
Yeah,
now,
the buoys are lying.
it's that bad. And so I was out in the boat with the kids like a few days later on a weekend. I took a picture.
Perfect.
I texted him a picture and he wrote back and he said, okay, I guess you're right. And then all of a sudden, Tom's email blew up, and then Gene we got an email, and I was like, it's bad.
Good.
And that's, the survey boat was down there doing a survey, and then he's like,
Wow.
the Coast Guard's gonna call you, and they called,
Is that-
he was off that day, the Coast Guard called me, like, hey, where can we move the buoy? I'm like, right over here, let me show you.
Was that the one that we got emails at the town
I'm
hall?
amazed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Correct
yeah,
action.
it's been.
Restoring our faith in the government process. That's good.
That's a lot of work.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
It's all who you know, it's not what you know.
It's not, but it's also the person squeaking.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Photo goes a long way. Good, excellent. All right, any other comments? I think we're ready to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right, all-
It's in
Vote
favor.
anyway. Good, I think we're set then.
All right.
Good.
Bye, guys, in Zoom world.